Kia ora and welcome to Beer Club. I'm Luke and this week we are drinking a beer from the island, Puha Road. This is the island's core IPA and the island are all about core beers. They only have a handful of beers and they're in heavy rotation. They're constantly brewing them. They have honed, they have perfected the recipes and they're fantastic. It's quite likely you haven't had many beers from the island because they are mainly known in Papamoa. So the island is all about their venue, the brew pub, which is a thriving hub of the Papamoa community. They have all sorts of events and gigs and bingo nights and a run club. Their Pilsner you may have tried with us a couple of months ago is fantastic. And this is their core IPA and it's a beautiful example of the style. It is pin clear. It is. It's pretty kind of old school, I'd say. It's a bit like the those. It's on the maltier side of things. It's like those piney, kind of zesty, malty IPAs with a touch of sweetness, a bit of malt backbone. Things like Stone IPA and Alesmith IPA. Those beers that caused huge waves in the 90s. So yeah, drinking it now is a little bit of it's a bit retro almost. Definitely the fashion at the moment amongst clear IPAs, West Coast IPAs like this, is all about having a super lean malt profile, super light body, and it's just all about the aroma and the bitterness of the hops. Whereas this one, you've got those American sea hops. You've got aroma, you've got bitterness, but also there's a really present maltiness to it. There is a touch of sweetness. There's a bit of kind of crystal toffee character. It's pretty windy out here. I hope the audio on my new microphone's okay. But I was the thing with IPAs is the pub bore loves to tell people that IPAs were invented to survive the long voyage to India, and it's a story. Like so many of these great stories, it caught on. It's an easy thing to share and to tell and to understand, and that is the story people have been telling since the 1600s. That IPA was brewed high ABV to survive the voyage to India. That it's brewed with more hops because they stop it from spoiling, but that's just pure marketing nonsense. In the 1700s and 1800s, IPAs were being getting sent to India, but so were barley wines and so were porters, and also Britain was sending a lot of beers to the Caribbean as well, where porters were much more popular, and ships were taking a lot of beer to Australia. Which is a considerably longer voyage than the voyage to India. And again, it was all styles. IPA was a popular style in India, but reading beer historians talking about the style as it would have been then, what was important to prepare the beer for travel was actually aging. So the IPAs of, the 1780s would have been they'd have been aged for many months or even a year before they got on a boat, because the idea was that the fermentation had to be completely complete and it had to be a very dry beer to not have any sort of residual sugars left. And of course hops are an ingredient that they do prevent spoilage. That is the history of beer. But it's the idea of IPA being made for India is pure marketing from brewers like Hodgson's and Bass and those huge London breweries and then later the Burton breweries at the time. It was just a cool name that really struck a chord with the romance of empire and made it a really popular style. And IPAs from the outset were very popular in England. It wasn't just this special beer that was only made for export. But it's kind of a cool marketing thing. If you're in a pub in London and you're drinking a beer that's made for the colonies and made for export. So that is the reason behind IPA. So if you ever hear anyone talking about how they were designed to survive the long voyage, you can tell them that also pale ales survived that voyage too. So did porters and barley wines and about every other style that was super popular at that time. And of course the IPAs that we drink today have very little in common with those beers from hundreds of years ago. The IPAs that we enjoy today are much more about the aroma, about the flavour. Those IPAs of the 1780s would have been stale as hell. Any character, aroma, all these delicious things that we love about IPAs, you know, flavours of citrus and zest and pine and cones and whatever else you might get from whatever hops you're using, would have all but disappeared. They would have had the bitterness, of course, and the malt character, but any aroma and flavour of the hops, and especially those English hops as well, that are much less have much less of a dominant aroma than these New World hops. These hops like I don't know what hops are in here, but it tastes like Centennial to me, perhaps Cascade, and yeah, these New World hops from the American West Coast, and then later on from New Zealand, etc. The East Kent Goldings, the Fuggles that would have been used in those historic IPAs, yeah, would not have provided a lot of delicious flavour in those beers. So, yeah, I definitely would enjoy drinking an accurate replica of one of those Hodgson's IPAs that were sent to India a couple hundred years ago. It wouldn't taste like this. So this beer is all about the craft beer revolution that kicked off in the States with the prohibition, the limitations on home brewing being lifted in the 80s, and that led to, in the 80s and the 90s, a huge surge in microbrewing and brew pubs in the States, and that's the history of the modern IPAs. These wonderful nerdy American brewers that had been to England and drank hoppy real ales. But also, yeah, by around 1900, the style of IPA was pretty much extinct. It was mild that's popular, it was bitter. IPAs weren't really a style that you would find anywhere. And just a few archaic brewers would have continued making them, which, as I say, American brewers traveling around Europe as teenagers with their guidebooks, discovering all these lovely and tasty beers, would have tried IPAs and then made them American. So ramped things up, ramped up the hoppiness, the ABV. Oh, and that's another thing, the idea that beer had to be high ABV to survive the trip to India. Of course, alcohol is a preservant and does keep things, but those original IPAs, they weren't 7-8%. They weren't like the Baltic Porters and the Imperial Stouts. They would have been more like 6%, which is in fact the ABV of the beer that we're drinking. So yeah, that also is just a complete fabrication of a story. So yeah, I've talked a lot about a style that this beer is not, accurate historic IPAs. But yeah, this beer is a lovely example, kind of old school, but old school as in from a decade or two ago rather than a century or two ago. And yeah, you don't see many IPAs like this around these days because yeah, drinkers don't like crystal and they don't like as much maltiness or the perception of sweetness in the beer. So yeah, lovely core IPA from the guys at the island. So excellent work. Thank you for joining us this week. See you again next time. Cheers.